in from the Windy City, it's time for JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.
Welcome to this week's podcast of JW Fusion. I am your co-host, J.H. Carpenter Barnes, and I'm here with the magnificent and amazing
Wendy B,
who is right so much all the time.
Still holding strong, right?
Girl, you wearing that cobalt blue.
Come on now.
They wearing that cobalt blue and that
I gotta represent my husband, right?
Looking all good. You're looking good.
I thank you.
You and Anthony got me looking kind of. I gotta go put on a jacket.
No, Anthony said he didn't come again, right? Anthony did not come to play.
Anthony was. He showed up with his brown.
Hey,
ace deuce cocked to the
that's
side.
the way you wear it.
I mean, his brother is sharp. He promenading down the boulevard on a Sunday afternoon, man. I'm here to tell you right now. We got a great show this week. We're here with Mr. Anthony Ellis McGee.
Awesome name.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah,
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Welcome.
Glad to be here.
So listen, Anthony, tell us, I guess we'll start off with your book. Tell us about Under the Same Roof.
Under the Same Roof is a story that takes place in Chicago, Illinois. It is a story of three siblings, Julian, the oldest, Kendall, the middle child, and Lauren, the baby, the only girl.
Okay.
These three siblings grew up under the same roof, eating the same oatmeal, same Kool-Aid, but they tend to live life on their own terms.
Wow.
Okay.
So here you go, three kids that were planted in the same soil, but their branches go in different directions.
Okay.
So
that's a great way to describe that. I like that.
So at this point in their life, they're dealing with professional issues, personal issues, but at the same time, they're dealing with an aging parent. And some siblings are better able to deal with that than others.
That's a real story for a lot of people, too.
Yeah, it is.
Yes.
It is.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really is.
And it was something, when I wrote it, I really didn't think of the whole caretaker aspect of it until later.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny because you said that too, babe. Like as you're writing, things kind of develop. And you're like, oh.
Oh yeah, they do. It's interesting. Stories tend to have a life of their own. Mm-hmm. You think you're going down Avenue A and you wind up on Avenue Q.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And you say, how did I get over here? And where did this person come from?
But it flows.
It flows.
Yeah.
It flows.
So is your story? Is it a fiction based on life, or was it totally a world you created?
It's fiction.
Okay.
It's fiction. I mean, as a writer, I can see myself in each one of the characters.
Sure,
Oh, wow,
sure.
okay.
But it's something that it's not. When I wrote the book, it was strictly off the top of my head.
Okay.
And that's how I tend to write.
Okay.
I don't write an outline. I just kind of sit and just kind of let it.
So you write in a linear fashion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I write as well.
I'm learning the terminologies, babe.
Yeah,
He writes linear.
I've heard that writing in outline form is easier. They say it's a faster way of doing it. But if that's not, it's like trying to put on somebody else's shoes. Mm-hmm. Man, those are some sharp shoes, but that ain't your size.
Mm-hmm.
Does that also kind of box you in from creativity when you do? And not that it's wrong, but does that kind of box you in? Because sometimes, like you said, the characters develop in different ways than you anticipated. If you write in an outline form, does that kind of stifle that a little bit?
Well, I've never tried an outline. I usually know how I want to start, how I want to end.
Okay.
It's just a matter of filling in the middle. And with me, with writing with three different characters, three different main characters, each one kind of takes on their own.
Okay.
So depending on what kind of mood I'm in, what music I'm listening to,
Wow.
Okay.
I
Makes
can
a
find
difference.
a way to try to
So you
plug that in.
So it's like a painting. Mm-hmm. It develops as you go, and that's the way. That's the same way I write fiction as well, because nonfiction is completely different.
Mm-hmm.
It's totally different. Nonfiction is more formal, more confining, because you confine the facts. Whereas with a fiction story, you can just let your creativity flow.
Mm-hmm.
You
Yeah.
know? And so how has your book been received?
It's been received well.
Yeah.
I actually won the Black Excellence Awards a few years
Okay.
ago.
Awesome.
Okay.
Congratulations.
And it was
Awesome.
so cool because my mom was alive at the time.
Okay.
So I told my mom, I was like, Mom, I want you to get dressed. I want you to go somewhere with me.
Oh.
And I was like, no, Mom, get dressed like you're going to church. Get dressed.
Yeah, put on your
hat, the
Sunday
whole thing.
clothes. Yeah.
So I took her, so it was at the DuSable Museum.
Nice.
And I won, and she was so proud.
Nice.
She was so proud. And
What a blessing.
And the irony of it all, that night, she went home, and one of my aunts saw it on TV because Channel 7 News had.
Wow.
So they had me receiving the award. And I was like, wow, that was 15 minutes of fame, right?
You still got that in your phone, though, don't you? Like, y'all want to see it? Here it is. Here it is.
This was the night that I won the award.
Yeah, you got to say it like that right there. Right?
Yeah.
So how did you, so you sit down to write a book. How do you make, I wanted it to be about 3 siblings, an aging parent, 3 instead of 1. I mean, how do you develop that?
That just something that came. I had, at the time, when I was writing, I had several friends that was dealing with caregivers.
Okay.
They were caregivers. And I used to listen to my friends talk about, oh, my sister, they won't do this and they won't do that.
You
My
hear
brother
that too
won't
often.
do this, won't do that. And I was hearing stories of, there would be 7 or 8 siblings, but
It's like
only
one.
that was really carrying
Yeah.
the
But
load.
that's the way it goes.
And
Which is crazy,
that's the way it
but
goes.
you hear it too
so I was
often.
Like,
Yeah,
I was like,
you do.
let me just develop something. And I just had it in me to write.
Okay.
I just felt like I could just do it. And I
Yeah.
just did it.
Okay. But I can relate to that because when my mom was, once my mom went to a nursing home because she started to fall, and the doctor said, okay, one more episode, you're gonna have to be under care. So she lived way up north. I'm way out south, and so my sister, she was ill. My oldest brother was unavailable because he had his own life and didn't want to be bothered. And then my younger brother, he lives in London, so that left me to have to run up there and look after her. So what I did, I had her moved south, to a place, to a care facility, which was a lot easier for me. And I was doing mortgages at that time, and one of my clients was a Cook County sheriff who did security there at night.
Okay.
So she would let me in after hours,
That's good.
because I was working. So I
Yeah.
would come after visiting hours, and she would let me in.
Awesome.
And I'd come by and see my mom and hang out with her a little bit. And so that is very true. A lot of times there's one person carrying the load. And if you're not doing it out of love, like anything else, if you're not doing it out of love, you get bitter.
Yeah.
You get resentful. And then sometimes those rifts, they're irreparable. You can always reconcile, but a lot of times it's after the thing is over that it happens,
Yeah.
But
I mean, it's hard to, and I can't imagine because thankfully mom is good, not going.
Yeah.
You are raised by someone who's taking care of you. And then when the roles are reversed, you're like, wait a minute, although
Yeah.
that should be something that should kick in because that person has taken you and raised you and cared for you your whole life. You
Yeah.
should just kick in, but that's not in everyone to do.
No, it's not, and it's. I know of instances because my mother, she was like a domestic person, but when I was a kid, she worked for this wealthy family, and then she worked for another lady up on the North Shore. Her name was Miss Eden, and she's passed away now. But her kids had her put in a nursing home so they could get her money, access to her money.
And that's a common
Yeah,
discussion
because
too.
they didn't want to take care of her.
Yeah.
They didn't want to deal with that. They had their own lives, and it's sad. So a lot of times they say, how does that go? Fiction is truth and life, or something like that. How fiction imitates life, so to speak.
It does.
And that's interesting that you wrote something like that. So the 3 characters, what are their differences?
One is making his money legally.
That's Julian, right?
It's Julian.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kendall is making his money illegally.
Okay.
And Lauren is finding herself.
Okay.
Lauren is pursuing. I would describe Lauren as a type A personality that's always what's next. So
Okay.
she's very
Okay.
goal
Okay.
oriented.
Okay.
Very driven.
Okay.
And we were talking before we got started, and I said, so Anthony, you have other books in your head? And he was like, yeah, I have a sequel to this.
Okay.
So I'm like, uh-oh. So I would imagine that second novel, and both of you all can talk about this, can give you time to get into the meat of the characters because you've introduced them, you've given them that history, but now you can develop them even more.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, you can develop. I know for me, my follow-up to Between the Ticks of the Clock was interrupted by Shattered Ceilings and JW Fusion and The Windy Life and other things that have popped
Our various projects.
The projects they're like, I think I'm in the chapter 6 or chapter 7 of the follow-up to the first book, but I haven't been able to get to it because Shattered Ceilings said, hey, write me. You got to finish me. You know, and I'm like, yeah. No, finish me because they talk to you. You know,
that's what I've heard many authors say that.
Those books, man, they're in there.
They tell you I'm next.
They want attention. And so right now I'm editing the fiction. I'm sorry, nonfiction, Shattered Ceilings, because the television show I'm doing is going to revolve around the content of the book.
Then that's going to be nice too.
Yeah, and so
it's one thing to read a book, but then to actually listen.
Yeah.
And have visuals. Yeah. That makes it better to absorb.
It's going to be interesting. It's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be challenging. So I got to find space.
You like challenges though.
Well, you know what?
You like waiting well.
I like it.
Depends on the challenge, right?
I like it when challenges are over.
Well, but you grow so much from the challenges.
You do. Yeah. That's why I say when it's over.
Yeah.
You can look back and say, yeah, I went through that. I made it. I survived.
So Anthony, you're going to develop the Julian the straight and narrow, and Kendall is on the other side. Do you have ideas of kind of not telling away, giving away the book, of course, but how do you want to talk more about one character or another in your next book?
No, I'm writing it the same way.
Okay.
So in the book, each chapter is devoted to that particular character.
Nice.
Okay. So
I like books like that.
Julian,
you know who you're talking about.
Julian is his turn to tell what's going on. Kendall is his turn to tell what's going on. Lauren's her turn. And it also gives those characters to say how they feel about their sibling, what their perception is of their sibling.
Oh, that's good.
So I'm following that same format.
Okay.
So in a sense, it's 3 books in one because each person had their own story of what they're and what they're dealing with.
Okay.
Nice.
Okay. That's interesting.
Yeah.
So with Julian is a lawyer, so he's dealing with legal stuff that's happening with him in his career. Kendall's in the streets, so he's dealing with street stuff. And Lauren is an executive as well.
Okay.
So each one of them is telling what's going on in their life.
Wow.
Also what's going on with their mother and their relationship with the siblings as well.
Okay.
That's cool.
Yeah.
You also said you had another idea for a book in your head about forgiveness.
Yes.
So tell us a little bit about that and how that idea came about.
Yes, I want to write a book about forgiveness. And July 1st, 1978, my only brother was murdered.
Wow.
And when he was murdered, he basically in the wrong place at the wrong time. A guy approached him sitting in a car, put a gun to his head, made him get out the car, put him in the trunk, he and a friend.
Oh, wow.
Put him in the trunk, and they rode around, getting high, goofing off, drove my brother to an alley, took him out the car, shot him twice in the head.
Oh, wow.
And it's the grace of God. They were so stupid in taking the car. And my brother had a car. He had a 1974 Delta 88 convertible.
Oh, wow.
And they tried to strip the car. They couldn't get the tires off. So when they arrested the guys, they found different parts of the car, different things that was in the car at the home.
Wow.
So he was out on bond for murder and was sentenced for 80 years.
He was out.
Wow.
On bond when he
murder.
killed your brother.
Yes.
Wow.
Yes.
So basically, what you're saying is, this guy had already committed murder.
Yes.
And they let him back out on the street.
Yes.
I don't understand
Posted
that.
bail, yeah.
I don't understand. No, if you've been convicted of murder, you should be locked up. I mean, that's my feeling. I understand that if self-defense is one thing, accidental things, I understand. Even if if 2 people are fighting and something horrible happens, which is unfortunate, But that right there, that
was deliberate.
That's
Yeah,
different.
yeah.
And so that's hard. That's a bitter pill to swallow when you know that
And he
person
was,
shouldn't.
He was 16. So
Yeah.
you're 16 at the time.
I
That
was
shakes
16.
your whole
Yeah.
world.
And you know what? I don't even think I realized it until later. I'm like, how did that really impact me?
Yeah.
You know, because I
Yeah.
remember being.
Yeah.
I mean, it was to the point where I remember what music was playing, what I
Yeah.
was doing.
Yeah.
You know, I remember the day vividly. You know, it was a Saturday afternoon.
Wow.
So I'm watching Soul Train and cleaning up. My mom hollering at me, and all of a sudden the doorbell ring, and it's two detectives.
Wow.
They come to the door and ask my mother, "Do you know a Charles McGee?" And my mom was like, "I have a son named Charles. I have a husband named Charles." And he was like, "Well, this person is in their 20s, and he's in the morgue."
Oh,
Just
my
like that.
gosh. Wow.
And all I heard was
Wow.
screams from
I
my
was about to
grandmother,
ask-
you know,
Yeah.
Okay.
and it's a sound I have never heard before in my life.
And you'll never forget.
I never forget it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a gut wrenching sound.
Oh, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So how does a family heal? If not completely, of course, but how did you guys as a unit and then individually kind of start processing what happened and move on and
You know,
heal from that?
my father, and I grew up in a 2-parent home, father, steel worker, but he wasn't a communicator. So I know he wasn't the type to comfort my mom to say, "Hey, it's going to be all right." You know, that just wasn't in his makeup. It was me kind of like, "You know what, Mom, it happened for a reason," that type of thing. Just to try
Wow,
to,
at 16
Yeah.
you're saying
yeah,
this.
just, that was all I had.
Wow.
So it was different, because at that time, I'm 16 years old, about to turn 17, and I'm attending Mendel High School. So at that time, I'm going to parties, and I want to go to the high school dance and hang out. And I remember one time coming home because the King Drive bus had stopped running or something, and I got home maybe 1 o'clock. And I opened the door, and she met me in the door, and she slapped me.
Yeah. She
And-
was scared. You
boy.
had
And
scared
I
her being out
and
that long. Yeah.
I didn't trip on it because I understood
Yeah.
what was going on.
Yeah.
She was scared. She was worried.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And we didn't have cell phones back in the day, so she just had to. She's like, I don't know where he is.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Wow.
Right.
You know,
Right.
I can relate to that because my sister's son, he got shot. He was 2. And he was inside an apartment in the projects. Well, my sister lived in the project. With her hard head, that's where her life took her. So she and her son were visiting some people on the 2nd floor. And these guys were outside having a gunfight with what they thought was another gang. But they were plainclothes police officers from a TAC unit. And they're firing back and forth. So this one kid had this weapon called a Tech 9, which is a handheld machine gun, basically. So he's sticking it around the corner, just shooting, just spraying bullets at random.
Wow.
And that bullet went up and into that window and shot William in the head. And so my sister, man, that's devastating for your 2-year-old.
Yeah.
And you
You're
inside.
at home where you're
right.
supposed to be safe. That's supposed to be
Right.
your safe place.
I mean, you're not in the wrong place at the wrong
Yeah.
time.
Right.
You inside.
You inside. You minding your own business.
Minding your own
Yeah.
business.
And that's how it's too many stories like that.
There
you
are-
hear.
there are way too many.
For both of you, it's too many stories. So
It's way too many. So let me ask you this: Has that that situation of the forgiveness aspect? Tell us the story about how you came to formulate the idea for the book.
Of forgiveness.
Yeah.
Just the whole process of going through it. Like you see programs where a kid goes and he shoots up a church, and the first thing one of the persons that was there, their mouth comes, "Well, I forgive him." And you're like,
you're
whoa.
screaming at TV like what?
Really?
No. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was just after a while you just have to let go.
Yeah.
It's that's about the easiest way to explain it, to move on, because you can really have so much hate.
Yeah.
Where it takes over your body, it takes over your mind, your body, your spirit.
Yeah.
And it will destroy you, and often the person that committed that particular action against you to have you feel that way, they've
They've
gone on
gone
about
on
their
about
business.
Yeah.
Exactly.
You're right, because when
Yeah.
you hold unforgiveness, you're not really holding unforgiveness. Unforgiveness is holding you.
Exactly.
And you said,
Hostage.
yeah, it is. And when you, like the key word you said move on. you can't stay and go at the same
Same
time.
time, right?
If you're gonna remain in unforgiveness, you cannot move on because you gotta hold on to that bitterness, that resentment, that whatever it is, whatever the emotions are.
Right.
And then what happens is a lot of people aren't aware that there's a part of our humanity called the limbic brain. And the limbic brain generates the chemicals that gives us the feelings we experience in life: happiness, sadness, jealousy, hatred, anger. The adrenaline comes from that same area of the brain. So what happens, people who experience a hurt in their lives and they're angry about it, that's the only thing they have to get back at the source of their pain. And they don't want to they kind of become addicted to it because it
becomes their crutch.
Yeah,
it's a
that's their
safety
crutch.
net for them.
It is.
It's always something to fall back on.
Because it's like, if I let this go, it's like I'm saying it's okay for what you did. No, you're not. You're saying, I need to live my life.
Right.
I need to keep living. I can't, because if you stay if you literally, physically, if you go get you a chair and go sit on your front porch, if you go sit in your living room and don't move, eventually you're going to die. You're going to die of starvation, dehydration. You're going to pass away. And that's the same thing what happens when you remain in unforgiveness. You're stuck in that place, and there's no life flowing into you. You just have hatred and anger and bitterness and resentment, and you're living in the past.
And oftentimes with forgiveness too, I've seen, just like you said, you wrote the murderer a letter.
Right.
And you forgave him, and he asked for forgiveness.
Yes.
But a lot of times when we go to forgive, there are people outside of us like, I would never. Like you get judged.
Oh, yes.
For forgiving.
Yes.
And that makes it sometimes harder if you're struggling with forgiveness, and you have all these voices saying, "No, I would never. He doesn't get to benefit from that. It's not that person's benefit.
Oh, absolutely.
It's yours." So
absolutely.
that you can try
Did you
and heal.
experience any resistance?
Absolutely.
You did?
My wife, her brother was murdered.
Wow.
Oh, wow.
So when I wrote the letter to him, I explained that I wrote the letter, and when I got the letter from him, I wanted to share it. She didn't want to read it.
Wow.
And then on another note, one of my close friends has been in and out of prison, and I told him about it, and he was like, yeah. He says, man, one thing, when you in the joint like that, you might say anything. You might write, so.
Yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So it's like, I understand.
Yeah.
But I couldn't let that.
Yeah, that was for you.
That was for me.
It doesn't matter if he was sincere or not.
Exactly.
You had to do that for you.
Exactly.
I commend you for that.
Yeah, that takes forgiveness. Takes courage. Unforgiveness does not. Unforgiveness is really I don't want to say it, but it's really a non-courageous thing, because what you're doing is you're hiding behind your hurt. You're hiding behind the event. You're hiding under the weight of that thing,
and it's eating you up.
Yeah, and you get support for it. People will endorse.
You get more support for that than if you forgive.
Forgiveness. Oh yeah,
which is crazy.
Oh yeah. I was told when there were things people said about me and different things, and I literally forgave them and still showed kindness. See, it's one thing when you say you forgive somebody. It's another thing when you demonstrate forgiveness, and I was told, wow, man, you just let people walk all over you.
Yes. See, that's an example of what I was saying.
But
why can't you be allowed to do what you feel is right for your life?
But to me, it takes more courage to do an act of kindness, forgiveness, an act of love in the face of hatred, because that's what Martin Luther King did. That's what Mahatma Gandhi did. The same thing. With other people who have adopted a position of peace as opposed to anarchy or violence. And it's always the better way, because nothing, as I always say this, nothing on this earth, nothing exists that is more powerful than fear. The only thing that's more powerful is love. Love is the only thing that can dispel fear, erase fear, displace fear. That's the only thing. And love is the only thing that can heal us when we're wounded, when we're hurt, when we're betrayed. We have to embrace that love. Let the hatred go. Let the bitterness go. You know, it's just like the guy that drove by our house just last week.
Yeah.
Wendy and I in our driveway. You know, we live in a predominantly Caucasian area, and you know, we have a nice house, and we were switching cars in the driveway. This Caucasian gentleman drives by. He looks at us, and we wave at him. I waved. I started to wave, and he gave me the finger, and held it up.
Yeah, he
As
held
he
on to
drove
that
by.
for a while, and I thought he was waving too, and I'm like,
I thought he was waving. He was waving. He was waving. All
He
right.
was waving all right.
He wasn't using all 5 fingers though, just one.
Yeah.
And my first thought was to chase him down and do what?
Yeah.
And do what? What are you going to do?
It would only escalate into
You
something.
let it go.
Let it go.
You let it go.
You mentioned something earlier, and which is really key, and that word is stuck. Because in different areas of our life, something can have us stuck, and we never move
You
past
never get
it.
out of it.
You know, whether it's forgiveness, whether it's just anger, whatever it may be. You know, I commend people that have had to deal with challenges and did not let a situation leave them there.
Yeah.
Because often a situation can leave you in a spot and you never bounce back
You never
from
recover.
it.
Right.
You never
Yeah.
recover from it. And before you know it, time and decades have gone by.
Yeah, and then you go so long, you kind of forget what caused that. You're just so
Absolutely.
used to being in that position of being
Absolutely.
stuck. Now
Absolutely.
you're mad because you can't grow and you can't figure it out.
Yeah. You know
That's
what
a
it is?
good point.
People get addicted to where they are because
Exactly.
It's comfortable.
because when you try to, the difficulty with change is the emotions or the feelings that we have that we become accustomed to. There are things that our body does. When our body becomes a mind, what that means is there's this thing they call muscle memory, where you also have emotional memory, you have physical memory. There are times when you're driving, you can drive for 6 blocks and don't know how you got from block 1 to block 6 because you just blank out. Your body's driving the car. Your subconscious is driving that car. Your conscious mind blanked out because you've done it so much, it's a habit.
Right.
And so when things become habits, you're living in what's called a past-present existence. You can't move forward to a created future because you're stuck in the present, which is being controlled by the past. You know, and so it's just like with you, Wendy, when Paige passed, you could have very easily just wallowed in the in
I wanted to.
in pity and
I wanted to.
depression.
Yeah.
And there's a part of you that, because it's still an attachment to Paige. You know what I mean? And it's but this is my daughter. I don't want, you're not letting your daughter go.
Yeah.
You're letting go of the pain, which is not good for you.
Yeah.
You know, now we will quickly drop a knife that cuts us. We'll drop it in a hurry. You'll drop a hot skillet in a minute, grease and all over the floor. But we won't drop emotional hurts. We won't drop the mental things that control our lives and dictate and create our personalities. Because your personality is what you think, what you feel, and what you do. That makes
Yes.
up your personality.
Yes.
So to create a new personality, you have to create a different person. You have to literally become a different person by letting go of the past and the current feelings, thoughts, and activities that make up your life.
Yeah.
And if you don't do that, and forgiveness is a big part of that, to be able to do that, we have to be able to let it go and move forward.
I think we have to also understand what our triggers are.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
good.
Oh my
That's
gosh,
good.
that's huge.
Yeah, that's huge.
When and this whole thing with my brother and writing a letter to the good person that killed my brother, I was with my cousins, and we were at Lincoln Cemetery. That's where all my people, that's where all my family is.
Okay.
So we're at Lincoln Cemetery, and afterwards, one of my cousins gave me a photograph of my brother that I had never seen, and it messed me up because I didn't recognize. She was like, "Here, who is this?" And I was like, "I don't know. I'm guessing. I'm making up names." I had never seen that picture, and it was just like, "Whoa!"
Wow.
And it really took me into like a spiral for like a spiral for like a
Okay,
week.
hold your thought, Anthony.
Yeah.
We got a
I wanna hear
commercial
more about
spot
this.
coming up. Listen, we're having an awesome conversation with Mr. Anthony Ellis McGee, the author of Under the Same Roof. And after this message, we're going to continue our conversation on JW Fusion We're so happy you tuned in. Tell somebody we're on and catch the last part of this broadcast. It's going to be awesome. We'll be right back after this message.
This book is the story of Jameson Harold Donovan, who lives in the city of Sussex Falls. Feeling trapped in his dysfunctional marriage to his wife and a stranger to his own children, thoughts of suicide dominate his waking hours. Jameson discovers he was selected before birth by the Almighty to receive quasi-angelic abilities. Between the ticks of the clock. You're listening to JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.
We're back with our very special guest, the author, blogger, activist, and all-around brilliant human being, Mr. Anthony Ellis McGee.
Thank you very much. Thank you very
So
much.
you were sharing about you were at an event and somebody showed you in a photo.
Yes, my cousin showed me a photo of my brother, which I had never seen. And I was it messed with me that I didn't recognize it.
Okay.
Yeah.
You know, and I was like, wow, and I was like, it's been that long, and I don't,
know,
and it
yeah.
just messed with me.
Mm-hmm.
And it really, I grieved. And I was like, wow, I thought I was past this.
Yeah.
But after 40 years, I was grieving again. I was like, whoa, and it stayed with me.
How many years?
After 40 years.
40 years.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
Yeah, people
That's-
always say you get over things and you don't. You just learn how to adapt and live your life in a different way, but you never get over it.
Right.
And people
right.
don't understand that. Because I
Right.
have triggers. We could be watching something random. It can be some kind of taco commercial. And for some reason, something within that will trigger thoughts of Paige.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But I just allow myself, okay, I had a minute,
Yeah. Yeah.
own it, feel it, do whatever it takes, but then kind of move on because I know my triggers.
Mm-hmm.
And I know that very beginning feeling of depression or grief, the grief to the point where it would lead to depression. And then I have things in place to combat that. But you never get, when people say get over it, you just don't.
I live by this. And I heard a minister mention this in a sermon a while back. She's like, own your truth.
Yes.
Oh.
Own who you are.
You just
Yeah.
own
Own
it.
what you feel.
Without
Because-
apology.
Right. Because when I had to visit my mom in a nursing home, I would tell my friends, like, man, I'm tired.
Yeah.
I'm
Yeah.
tired of this.
Yeah.
I love my mom, but
Yeah.
I'm tired of this.
Yeah.
But some people want to, they want to dress it up. The Lord only put in so much you can bear. I'm like, yeah, I know that, but kind of, it's kind of heavy right now.
It sounds good, but I need a conference with the
need to-
Lord.
I need to-
Right.
Yeah.
You trusted me a little bit too much
Yeah.
on this. So
Yeah.
you have to be honest with your truth. And because that's the only way, I think, to deal with different things that really mess you up. One of the things that's so funny with guys, I have friends and we talk about they may have had marital problems or they broke up with a girlfriend, whatever. And a guy would be like, oh, yeah, man, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
But he's going to go home and cry by himself.
Yes.
Yeah.
Whereas, some ladies may get together with their girlfriend, they're going to go shopping, they're going to go get a movie, they're going to do this. So different people release things differently.
Yeah.
And you can't just bottle it all up
But
all
you
the
have
time.
to know to release.
You have to know to release,
Because
absolutely.
I've had some friends who, a friend of mine, her mom passed about 1.5 years ago, and she's like, I just can't stop crying. I said, well, don't.
Right.
Just let it all out.
Yeah,
Hurt
because
yourself. You just
you know
have
what?
to let it go.
There's certain things that as human beings, there's a reason God gave us that release for emotional release. It could be laughter or it could be tears. There's a reason for it because when that happens, there's something happening inside of you that needs to be let go of. Because
you
if
try
you
to
hold
suppress
it,
that.
you suppress it, and it can lead to sickness.
Yeah,
It
real
manifests other
sickness.
ways.
Real sickness.
Yeah, real physical sickness. It can lead to mental malady. It can lead to you just being a bitter, angry person. And you don't understand why. Because you didn't you didn't grieve properly.
Yeah.
You didn't let that.
And it can lead
you
to
didn't let it out.
self-destructing behavior.
You know, yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
And it can really hinder you. Just put a hold on your life. You'd be again
You're
stuck.
exactly.
Yeah.
Be stuck.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That'd be a good book, Stuck.
Y'all talk about that after this show. We'll figure out maybe a collaboration or something. Now, Anthony, you also have a blog that you.
Yes.
Tell us about the blog.
Yes, the name of the blog is AEM High Productions. And I tend to write the purpose of the blog is to inspire, elevate, and motivate individuals to just be the best that they can be. And so often when I'm not writing fiction, the blog allows me to keep practicing my writing.
Okay.
And also, so I like to write about different events. Actually, I have an event coming up. I'm going to be writing for the Real Men Cook.
Okay.
Oh,
So I'm
nice.
going to be attending that
Okay.
event to blog on that. And it's a way to try to keep my name out there faster.
Yeah.
Because
Okay.
as I've heard you say, James, writing it can be very isolating. It
is.
can be a lonely place.
It is.
Yeah.
And
It is.
and it takes a long time to get to the reward part of it.
Yeah.
So blogging allows me to do something that have immediate impact.
Okay.
That's
And
awesome.
often that reward is not what you think it's going to be. It's not what you think. And I realized that when
And
I
it doesn't
finished,
come the way you expect
it doesn't come the way you
I
think.
finished the book. It's going to sell out. It's not that
Exactly.
easy.
It's not.
Yeah.
The reward is fulfilling your gift.
Right.
You know, exercising your gift.
Right.
Like I'm a musician. All right.
Right.
I got a whole music room over here in the other part of the house. And I don't play out. I don't gig right now anyway. But there's a fulfillment I get from exercising the gift God gave me. And the same thing with what Wendy and I are doing with the radio program. It's to help other people to get their voice out, get their voices heard, their message, their products, their business, whatever it is they're doing. Because we've had a lot of different types of.
Yeah, completely different.
We've
And I like
had-
that. We have totally different conversations.
Yeah, we've had multimillionaires on. We've had people who motivate multimillionaires. We've had people who are just starting out in their businesses. You know, we've had artists, and we're going to have musicians as well. But the idea is that we're promoting and pushing others so that they can expand their platform, to expand what they're doing. Because when we do that, we're in essence, we're helping each other. You know, we're benefiting because we're sowing promotion to someone else. Then promotion eventually will come our way for the things we're doing.
Right.
You know, like the Wendy Life and this radio program all stemmed from the book. You know, we were invited. We didn't go looking for a platform. We didn't go looking for a place to do video of us or for us. We were asked, hey, we want to do this for you. We want to do this with you. And it's all from giving. And that's the key, because too many people have the mindset of taking. Like you're writing about Real Men Cook. That's a blessing to promote a very worthy cause, a very necessary cause. You know, and you're not looking to get paid from that. You're not looking for notoriety. You're doing that because you believe in what they're doing.
Yeah.
And I think that's key to success.
That's one of the conversations that I had with one of my cousins. And she came to me, she says, Anthony, she said, I know you may not be happy with the results you got from the book from a monetary perspective. She said, but use your gift.
Yeah.
Love
Use your
that.
gift.
Yes.
And I started back, just to show you how things work. My mom used to always say the Lord works in mysterious ways, and he does. In December of 2016, the week leading up to Christmas, I got laid off.
Wow.
Okay.
And
Right
so the
before
next,
Christmas.
yeah, the week of
Jesus.
December 19th.
Yeah.
So I spent the next 6, 7 months, 9 months really looking for work. I'm like, okay, I'm a black man. I'm over 50, you know, just other things going on, and
Yeah.
just no doors open.
Yeah. Yeah.
My wife retired in September of 2017. 30 plus years with the state of Illinois, with Department of Children and Family Services.
Wow.
So after she retired, her health has gradually declined.
Okay.
So right now, she is basically having difficulty using the left side of her body.
Okay.
So I was like, you know what? I said, now, if I had been working anywhere, I wouldn't be able to.
You couldn't care for her.
I couldn't care for her. I couldn't go take her to doctors and to physical therapy and be there because she's fallen a few times.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You know, be home when something happens.
Yeah, yeah.
I said, so that's just the Lord's way of saying, okay, I'm thinking way ahead of you. Even
I know what's coming. Yeah.
I know what's coming. I know what's down the
Yeah.
road. So right now, I write. You know, if I could get a deal like Grisham or Patterson, that'd be wonderful.
That'd be cool.
Yeah.
Whoever's listening.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's about using my gift, and it's just something my pastor mentioned it as well. At my pastor, Reverend Dr. Otis Moss III, he mentioned that. He said earlier this year, he says, use your gifts. He called everybody to the altar to pray for them, asking, hey, if you have a gift in you, whether it's to do this, don't be afraid to do it. Don't worry about not receiving the rewards and the accolades, but just use your gift. So that's what I try to do.
You know,
more
that's a
people
scripture.
should say that too.
They should.
More
They
people,
should. They
your
should.
family,
Yeah,
like
yeah.
your cousin did it, and your pastor. More people should. They're thinking like, oh, you need to go back to school. You need to find you a job anywhere,
We know
doing whatever.
There's a scripture that says, your gift your gifting will bring you before great men as you give of that gift. I think it's in the Message Bible. In other words, as you use your gift, as you give your gift, it will bring you before great men. When you're giving your gift, you don't know who's going to see that. Just like I never thought that the awesome people at Artists First Radio, I never thought that being interviewed on their program, that they would be interested in me to the point where they wanted us, when they not have our own radio program. Same thing with Road to Eternity Productions. They came and they knew about the book. They talked to Wendy about her thing with special needs children. And so now she's a television program. And then the same thing with Shattered Ceilings. I talked about the book a bit, and they were like, wow, we want to do a show around that. That was their idea. So when we exercise our gifts, we don't know what God has in store. He knows because the scripture says, I know the thoughts I think toward you, thoughts of good and not of evil, to bring you to an expected end. In other words, the end that I planned for you, the destination. People think that's death. That's not the end he's talking about. He's talking about the destination that you're to wind up at to flourish and to prosper.
I know the plans I have for you.
Yeah, he knows the plans, and so that's why it's so vital. That's when I met you. I said, man, I want to have you on the program, because you have a spirit of excellence and you have a very giving, philanthropic spirit about you, and that's the way we are. And so we embrace and we celebrate people who like to give, because that's what it's all about. I don't care much for takers. I don't care much for manipulators. I love them from a distance.
They stay over there.
Long handle spoon.
Stay right over there. Yeah.
A long handle spoon with a spring on it.
Yeah. So Anthony, what are your future plans? Like, I know you have a few books in your head, and you have the blog, and then you have Aim High. Was it Aim High Productions?
Yes.
Yeah. So what is the goal? What is your dream, your goals, and what you're doing?
And talk about the audiobook. Talk about the audiobook.
Yes.
Thank
you.
All of that.
Yeah. As a matter of fact, that's in production now.
For this book.
Yes.
Nice.
Right. So the audiobook, God willing, the audiobook should be ready within the next couple of months. It's already being worked on.
Nice.
So my plan is to get the audiobook going by the end of the year.
Okay.
And then have the follow-up, the sequel, done for the start of 2020, so that this time next year I can really be out and about.
Okay.
Making the runs and just trying to get my readership up.
That's nice. We talked earlier before the show too. You were saying how, and as I still kind of do it, and you've done it, like chasing events to have your face and your name in front of people, and you got tired. We're not 20.
Yes.
We are not 20, and you adapted. You shifted. A lot of people.
Babe, I'm not 30, 40, or 50.
Listen, we just said, well, we're not 20. We're going to leave it at that. That's how we're going to talk about that part. But yeah, talk to people who feel like, I'm of a certain age, even if it's not as, we're all over 50, chasing these events. You shifted. What about it? I mean, other than being tired, you're tired, you shifted and decided to do something else. How did you come to that decision, and what did you decide to shift and do?
Well, last year I was really out trying to promote, and it's weird. Maybe you can relate to it. Maybe you've experienced it, but you go to events, entrepreneur events, and you tell people I'm an author. They kind of look at that differently. Well, you're not doing this, you're not doing it. Yeah, okay. So I was in those type of venues a lot. And I'm like, okay, I'm not really meeting a lot of creative people. I have people that I was attending events, and they're like, okay, I want you to sign up and do this. And I'm not knocking anybody's
And
hustle.
events cost money. It's not like you just show up for free. You're paying to be at that event.
Right. You're being, so I just wanted to, often too, you would go to events and it's a big production, and then they're trying to sell you on their product.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, all right. That's
Yeah.
cool. I'm not really into that right now. I don't really feel like doing that right now.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, this year I'm going to really concentrate my efforts on being in creative spaces. So that's what made me join C-Band. That's what made me hook up with the Black bloggers. And then also for my church has, Trinity United Church of Christ has a daily devotion.
Okay.
So I contribute devotionals as well.
Oh, so you write devotionals?
Yes.
Okay, awesome.
Yes.
And that's feeding your spirit, too, as you're doing
Yes.
that.
Mm-hmm.
Good for you.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome because you're absolutely right about that. Entrepreneurs view writers differently, and the thing you should consider is, with your background and your creativity, you should think about building a platform for people who have suffered loss to family members.
Speaking on
there
that,
is
yeah.
a huge segment of our society, especially in the African American community, that have suffered loss to violence, and that forgiveness key, that forgiveness, as they said, forgiveness piece would be huge to serve that community.
And
It
letting
would
go
be,
of the
oh my
anger
gosh,
that you have
and
for
you're
that.
putting a book out on it.
That's a huge
That's
platform.
huge. And when you get your book out, you come back and we're gonna promote it and so forth, because it needs to be pushed.
One of the things when this whole thing went down with me revisiting my brother's death and the mourning, the grieving again, I actually wrote about it on Facebook. And the response I got was like, wow, because people, like, I've been knowing you for years, but I didn't know that part. Or I've known you and I knew about it, but I didn't know the details.
Yeah.
And it was
Yes.
very powerful
Yes.
Yeah.
because it's so many people that are experiencing it, unfortunately, in our community.
Yeah.
And there's no outlet for it,
Right.
or they don't know how to outlet or how to express it. And once again, it manifests in different ways.
And another thing,
Yeah.
we don't know how to receive it. I know when I talk about Paige, I try to talk about her in a positive, sunny light, because people don't know how to receive that. People don't want to talk about a child dying. It's just not something we're going to talk about. It makes people uncomfortable.
They're more
does.
comfortable than you are.
Exactly. So I just want to talk about it because I'm like, I should be able to talk about my daughter. I don't want, people who've just met me within the last 5-6 years, they don't know about Paige because she's not around physically. So I talk about her. You can't say you don't know. Well, you had 2 boys. I have 3 children. My daughter's in heaven. She's 21. I want to talk about her because I don't want her to be some distant memory.
Right.
Yeah.
Or something that someone doesn't know about. If you know me, you should know about Paige, whether you've met her or not. And you should be able to talk about your brother, and people should be able to ask, like, can I ask you this about your daughter? Yes, you can.
Well, people need they need an example.
Yeah.
Well,
If everybody's not talking, if everybody's not discussing their hurt and expressing how they cope, how they deal, how they move forward, and not get stuck, because you can get stuck at the point of a death of a loss of a loved one.
Yeah.
You can stay right there, build a shrine to them, putting pictures of them up, and you don't realize it's a shrine.
You wear it on your face too.
You do.
You
do.
wear
It's-
that.
and
You see
and
that.
you've got that loss everywhere you look in your house, and you're not moving forward. You know,
Right.
so people need to hear that voice.
They need to have that conversation. And
because
it's funny, like you said, the floodgates open.
Yeah.
oh yeah, yeah.
Like when I first talked about Paige publicly, people that I've known for a couple years, like, oh my God, I lost a
didn't
son,
know.
and I'm like,
Yeah.
wait, what?
Because people don't talk about it.
Why not? Why can't we talk about this?
Now, sometimes people talk about stuff in the wrong way. Mm-hmm.
Right.
Yeah, I lost.
And
my
see, I have
daughter.
people like that, and I've told people, I'm like, I don't. You're that person people run from.
Yeah, because you're a downer.
You're a downer,
Yeah.
and it's sad. It sucks.
Yeah.
For the best word, it sucks when you lose a child. But I don't want to bring you down. I want you to know the light
Right.
that she was when she
Right.
was here.
You're celebrating the goodness.
You celebrate that. Hey, that's
The
good.
goodness, yes.
Say that again.
Celebrating the goodness.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You
One
wanna
of the
do that.
things that we have to do, one of the most important words there is share. For example, I have one of my close friends, very close friend. He's dealing with his mother's illness. And a couple of weeks ago, I went by his house to pick up something, and we just couldn't, right? I could just see it in his eyes. I was like, so you tired, aren't you? He was like, man, he's like, dude, you just don't know.
And as a man, he needed that. He needed
Yeah.
somebody to give him that permission to
Yeah.
just say that.
Yeah.
Right.
Because men,
right.
y'all not black men. You're not supposed to get tired. You're supposed to handle everything smooth, and that's not
It's not realistic.
that's not realistic at all.
I'm strong of mind, back, and spirit. I ain't
Yeah.
got no problems.
Yeah, okay.
You know,
Okay, how's that working out for you?
it ain't.
But that's huge. But I really want people to understand that when
Yeah.
someone is going through something, you know, for me, I try not to say I'm sorry for your loss. I just say I'm praying for your comfort and strength, because as Christians, we're supposed to. That's supposed to be our goal, is to transition from this physical life to this physical. I mean, to the spiritual with the Lord. So I try not to say I'm sorry for your loss. You know, I'm sorry that you're going through something, but what can I do to help bring you up?
Yeah.
If you
Yeah.
just want that ear, if you want, I've told a friend who lost her son a couple years ago, we can go to the park and we don't have to talk about nothing. I'll just be here.
Yeah.
We
Yeah.
can talk about peanut butter and jelly. We can talk about whatever. We can talk about your son.
Right.
But you have to give people permission to be in the space that they're in at that point,
Right.
and hope to bring them past that.
Right.
Yeah,
Don't
you
judge
should.
them because of the way they're
Yeah.
grieving,
Yeah. Yeah.
or they appear not to be grieving, because people
don't need
grieve
to
in
be
different
judged.
ways.
They don't need that. but
Yeah.
And that's the most important thing. And I think with anything, you have kids out on the street, and we can't always just go with somebody and beat them over the head like
Right.
like the Flintstones. You have to you got to meet people where they are.
Yes.
yes.
And
yes,
if you
do.
can't meet
You
people
do.
where they are, you are never going to connect
Even if
with
that's
them.
not where you'd be, it's not about you.
Right.
It's about that person and what
It's
that
about that
person
person.
needs.
Yeah, it goes back to what we were talking about with Sharon, about
Sharon
love.
Sykes, yeah.
Sharon Sykes. We're talking about love when she ministers to people, how she comes from a place of love,
And no judgment.
no judgment.
Yeah.
You know, you're sharing your heart to a heart. So when you go from heart to heart, the head is not in it. That's when the head gets in it. Then that's when
Messes
the
everything
ego
up.
gets involved. And the purpose of the ego, for those who aren't aware, the ego's job is to protect you. That's the purpose of the ego. It's very selfish. It's very self-centered. It's all about you. That's what the ego is, which has a place in survival. But when it comes to sharing with others, there's no place for the ego. That's the heart's realm.
Yeah.
That's where God's love flows from one heart to another. And so with what you've been through and what you've been through and what I've been through, we can share and talk to other people and one-on-one. You know, no audience, no judgment.
Right.
Just sharing.
You don't have to say to everybody, oh
Yeah,
yeah, Wendy talked to me.
exactly.
Yes, they should be. We don't have to even have that.
No, you
Right.
don't.
This
And-
is about what you need at that point.
And that's
Right.
huge. And the book you're writing on forgiveness, man, that right there is what I believe will take your writing career to a whole nother level. You could write a blog around forgiveness
and
you
never
could-
run out of content.
and never run out of content.
Never
Ever,
run out of
ever.
content.
Right.
I mean, everything from the guy driving by giving you the finger in front of
Yeah.
your own house
Right.
to people putting chicken bones in your mailbox.
Which has happened to
we
us.
had that happen to
Yeah.
us. They drive by, put chicken bones because they know black people live here. They gonna
And
put
I've
chicken
been called
bones
the
in our
N-word
mailbox.
while I was out running.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that happened. And people say, I shared with a guy that I work with that lives in this same area. He's been living out here a long time. He said, that happened in our neighborhood? I said, it happened in our neighborhood. I don't want to say what our neighborhood is, but the majority of the people here are very nice, you know, very genuine. But then you have people who have issues, and they're hurting from something. There's something inside them that is diseased that needs healing.
And it doesn't make the action right of what they do.
But it helps you understand.
And then you got to think about the whole picture. So had we chased this guy down and whatever happened.
And then what?
This man knows where we live.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
You know? Or it could have escalated into something that didn't need dangerous.
Didn't need to happen.
Didn't need to happen, and you have that regret.
You get the ego out of it.
Yeah, because you're like, well, I would have done this. Okay, well, no, you shouldn't have.
No, you shouldn't have.
You just let it go.
You'd be down there on 26 in California.
Locked up.
It makes me think of a story that with my brother and I must have been I'm guessing maybe 11, 12 years old. And my mom and the social club she was a part of was having a Father's Day banquet at the Sabre Room, I think it was. It's in Hickory Hills.
Okay.
And so my brother and I, in his car, in his convertible, we going down 95th. And at that time, you know, 95th and Cicero is not like it is today where you
didn't go over there.
You didn't go over there.
I know.
So we riding through Oak Lawn, and Gary rides next to us and spits at my brother's car.
Wow.
And you know, Chucky wanted to go and chase him through the neighborhood. So me being young, and I got to the banquet and told my mom, boy, you mess with me, get my boy hurt over there, you know, chasing because he spit at your car. But that's how you show you how you can react to something, and it leads you into something way worse than you.
Yeah. It's a whole rabbit hole.
And he would have been the one at blame. He would have got blamed.
Like we would have been.
Yeah, we would.
This person is driving past. And we're going to chase him down, beat him up, you know, whatever. If James fight, I'm gonna have to fight because I got his back like that. Now, we both locked up, and this guy, you know, he's the victim.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it didn't start out that way.
Yeah. So you right then and there, you forgive him, let him go. And what was funny, we're on the expressway. I look, and there he is.
Wow.
Right next to us.
Wow.
And he didn't because our car was parked like this. He didn't really, he saw it was a Porsche, but he didn't know what kind. Because from the front, all Porsches kind of look alike. But from the side, I don't think he recognized the car. And I looked at the guy, and he looked like something was wrong with him. He really did. He had this odd look on his face, and I was like, wow, Lord, thank you, God. I didn't, this might gotta get out, bite my arm off or something.
Not to react to things, but respond.
Yes. You were about to say something.
Yeah, quick story. I saw something online, and it just made me laugh. There was Goldilocks, and the three bears were on the side of the house, and they got their arms up because they being arrested. Somebody like, she broke in their house.
Right. But that's what happens a lot of times.
She broke in their house.
So people need to just think sometimes. Just take a minute and think about that's perfect. So tell everyone how they can follow your blog and just get to learn more about you. How can they do that, Anthony?
Absolutely. I can be reached at aemhighproductions.com.
As in Anthony Ellis McGee, okay?
Hold the book up again, too.
I know this book.
Also, look for me on Anthony Ellis McGee on LinkedIn. I'm not on Twitter yet. I'm on LinkedIn. I'm on Facebook. Instagram.
Okay. All under Anthony Ellis McGee. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. That's awesome, man.
Thank you.
But
y'all tap into this man. He got some stuff.
Yeah, that forgiveness thing. Work on it. Get that out. Get it. Are you self-published?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, get it out there and consider building your speakers platform because there is a tremendous, tremendous need for that, for that forgiveness. And if you need, I know I have a coach that helps me because I'm building a speakers platform for Shattered Ceilings.
Okay.
But listen, our time is up.
Thank you so much for the time and coming by and hanging out with us.
Thank you. It's wonderful.
Great conversation.
So until next week, I'm James H. Carpenter Barnes.
I am Wendy B.
Who is right so much. We'll see you guys next Thursday, 6:00 p.m. on the Artist First Radio Network.
Hi, this is Wendy, and welcome to The Wendy Life. This is a brand new show. We are celebrating some unsung champions in our community, the disabled community. I have been a mom of disabled children for 21 years, and I look to bring light to this community. We are going to talk to and celebrate therapists, teachers, doctors in this community. We're going to talk to the special needs community themselves, people who are rocking out this life despite their disability, showing us how to live our best lives no matter what life throws at us.
The Wendy Life. New episodes every second and fourth Friday on the Road to Eternity channel.
Thanks for listening to JW Fusion with your hosts, James and Wendy B.